Okay, I'm going to do this video in stages because I've decided that I want the higher arch of the underarm, but I don't want, see the difference in the arches here? One's got I want the high arch, but this is, I'm using this really, I bought this, gosh, probably last year, early last year, and see the stretch in this? I bought this thinking that I could make a pair of tights out of this ribbing, and I ended up throwing the tights away because I just couldn't do it. It was just impossible. Number one, there was only stretch one way. You don't get very much stretch on this knit ribbing in the opposite direction. That's why it works so good for your ties when you sew your ties up and down, because you're not going to get the stretch. So this is the type of fabric that's cute for t-shirts, but there's no way that you can make tights out of this. I don't know why I even tried it, to tell you the truth, but I just thought if I didn't make tights, I could make leggings out of it, and they would turn out really cute. But it ended up in the trash can, so whatever I did with it, it wasn't worth keeping, because all I have left on this fabric is the back piece and whatever the leftover residue was from, I'm almost sure it was tights, I don't know. Anyway, so back to the pattern. I want it to be high underarm, but I want to use the bottom. There's no sense in me having to use up elastic when it's got a perfectly good seam already on the bottom of this one. So I'm going to use this as the bottom. And I kind of think that I'm going to do it the same as this black and silver one. I think that's really cute, but I put a seam in the bottom of this one, so I can either take this pattern and lower it, or I could make myself a new pattern. To get a clean cut on this so I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to just go ahead and make myself a new pattern. So I'm going to take my freezer paper and fold it in half. And if I had my, if I had just gotten this off the internet, I could just use this and follow this as my pattern. So this is the high underarm. I'm wondering if you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to use the high underarm pattern. So I'm going to put that in the middle, and I'm going to trace my pattern. That's low underarm. This is high underarm. And this is, and I don't need this much bottom, so I'm going to lower, I'm going to raise that up the amount of what I think my seam allowance would have been had I put in a actual seam. I did that wrong. Okay, so it's the bottom one, not the top one. Okay, so make sure you mark your strap placement too. You don't have to really do the strap placement, but it's just helpful so that you get the general idea. Because when you do put your straps on, you're going to want to try it on your doll anyway before you actually commit to sewing the straps on. So I'm just going to put a couple pins here so that I can cut my pattern out. Okay, so I cut off my seam allowance for the bottom since I'm going to use that bottom of that t-shirt as the actual bottom seam. But you see how easy this is? You don't even have to be that accurate because you're going to turn this in anyway and sew it. But this is basically the whole pattern. Now if you've never made one of these before and you want to verify the fit, you can take your doll. Let me see, I don't have a doll here. Okay, well, next time. You can take this and put it around your doll and try it on. Let me get a doll real quick before I shut down. Okay, here's Kelsey without her top on. So, her arm got caught. Okay, so here I've got Kelsey. Hairband. I don't. Not prepared. Okay, well anyway, put her arms up. And I was trying to find a rubber band for her hair to get it up out of the way. Take your pattern. This is our flash. And try it on your doll. And then find out, do you like the length of it? Now I'm only going to have a little turn in up here. So this is going to be my actual length. Maybe I want to, maybe I do want that shorter because I'm only going to have a 1/4 of an inch turn here. So, you know, these are all things you can decide. Another thing is, do you have enough clearance under the arms to think about? You want to think about that too. So those are the things you want to look at. So I'm not too happy with the length of that outfit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some off the bottom again. I'm going to take a little bit more off and line my papers up because you want these even because this is what's going to connect in the back. And then just take a little bit more off of the bottom, however much you think you want off. Okay, I would pin these together before you cut, just so they stay lined up. Trim that too. Okay, so now I'm happy with the pattern. Okay, it's ready to sew on, ready to cut out. Okay, so I got my iron going, I've got my pattern ready. Now it's just a matter of cutting it out. I've got to recover my ironing board. It's getting so, I've been using it so much, it's getting kind of tacky looking. But I haven't found any plain duck yet. It usually has a color design in it. Okay, so let's go ahead and line up our rib knitting. Okay, we don't want to stretch it out any. We want to leave it just the way it is. So I'm on a medium setting on the iron. And I know I'm going to use this as my bottom seam. So I'm going to take this and line it up. Okay, try and get as close. Now let's just say for some reason my pattern is arching up in the middle. What you want to do is not tug your fabric. You just want to leave it that way because there could have been a problem with me doing my pattern. But you want to make sure that this corner and this corner are exactly the same on the bottom because these are going to be your two connecting pieces from your for your tank top. Okay, so once you've got it lined up pretty good, go ahead and iron it on. Make sure it sticks. Still good, still good. Okay. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to cut it out. Okay, so the only other thing I'm going to need now for this tank top is my piece of Velcro to finish it off. I'm going to need my elastic, clear elastic for stabilizing that upper seam, because we don't have to do the bottom seam on this t-shirt, on this tank top. And then our sewing machine and some thread. And our straps. Okay, so there we go on the tank top. Let's see what it's going to look like. It's going to look cute with Levi's. Okay, so I'm going to put strap here and a strap here, and I'm going to put spaghetti straps so that you can see how that turning looper tool works too. So I'm going to make just 2 straps. I'm not going to make them halter or tie on to the top. So I'm just going to go straight straps so you can see how to make a simple tank top. Okay, so how I'm going to do that is I'm going to have to get out my I'm going to use my cutting tool. So I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, I've got my cutting mat out and I got my rotary cutter. This is what I have left. Most of your straps that are going to go across your shoulders are going to be anywhere between 4 and 5 inches, depending on the position you want it, whether you want the the tank top to go low or to go high. So your best bet is to cut off at least 5 inches. You can even go 5 to 6 inches, so you have enough to start your stitches up further than you need to. So to be on the safe side, cut yourself 6-inch strips. Another thing you want to think about is when you're going to sew these straps on your sewing machine, you're going to want enough of a lap over width so that when you're sewing on here that your pressure foot will evenly feed this rib knitting. So you want to give yourself at least enough to go back and forth, double across your pressure foot. So in that case I would go with a strip that's at least 1.5 inches. I would say at least 1.5 inches. Give yourself a strip that wide and you'll be safe. So since I'm not going to use this little strip for anything else, or even this one, let me see how much space is left on here. Okay, I have enough here, so I'm going to just cut this up with my rotary cutter. So I'm going to go ahead and just go straight up this. I'm going to line this up to make sure I'm along the grain, because you want the ribs to be up and down. So when you cut, straighten out your fabric so that your ribs are in an up and down motion. So let me just go ahead and cut that off. To make it easy on yourself too, you can go ahead and cut off that bottom strap because you're not going to use that anymore either. So, and that'll give you a nice smooth, you can just follow one of these rib designs. Okay, and that will give you a nice straight edge to sew. Okay, so we want, we've got a pretty good straight up and down on the ribbing, the rib knitting, so get it evened out. Okay, so we can only do one cut of this one and we'll have enough for both straps. So overlap it, give yourself a good 1.5 inches to go on your sewing machine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's a little more than 1.5 inches, and that's fine because it's not going to hurt. It's better to err on the side of too much than not enough. Okay, so I've got my strip cut out, and I'm going to cut this in half, and that will give me at least a 7-inch strap, so that's more than enough to go on both sides. Now, don't worry about the design yet because you have plenty of leftovers, so you can line up the design if you want to match these stripes. If you want to be that particular, you can do that. But I mean, is somebody really going to notice that this isn't lined up properly? I mean, you know, maybe somebody might, but who's going to do that? Okay, so I'm going to clean this up. I've got my 2 straps. I've got my tank top main body, and the rest of this is just scraps, and I'll get my sewing machine out. Okay, and I'll be right back.